Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're hailing from. Welcome to OpenShift.tv. I am Chris Short, Principal Technical Marketing Manager of the OpenShift team, or on the OpenShift team. I'm joined today by two special guests, Andy Block and Scott Worthington. Andy, please introduce yourself to the crowd.
Hey everyone, my name is Andy Block. I'm a senior principal consultant at Red Hat. I've been working with our customers for, oh my God, can you believe it, Chris? 10 years.
Wow,
I
that's a
know.
long time, dude.
I'm now officially in the get off my lawn territory.
Oh, wow. Really? I mean, are we getting off your lawn right now?
I mean, you're not, but you could.
Okay.
So I work mainly with our customers to deliver various solutions around particularly, containerization, automation, and integration.
Awesome. Scott, please introduce yourself.
Howdy, Scott Worthington, senior consultant at Red Hat. Been here since 2018. Been a fanboy of RHEL or Red Hat operating system since I think it was 6.2. I actually started out with FreeBSD. Before then, it was the TRS-80, then
Mm,
CPM,
mm.
and then oh boy,
Throwback.
DOS,
Wow.
Windows
Yeah, DOS
3.1,
Windows. Oh
Windows
my God.
95,
Yeah.
The old
98,
days.
NT. FreeBSD came in there with Novell NetWare. A
Oh,
little bit of
wow.
everything.
So you've already got a shout out in chat, Andrew. I told you were famous. I
Uh-oh.
told you.
Who's heckling me?
JD Barlow. I'm currently reading Andrew's new book, Learn Helm, and highly recommend it.
All right, Scott, come on, go pull it out.
Would it
I know you
be
have it. Yes,
this
there it
book?
is.
That book.
This is going to
That
be
very
3D
book.
theater. Here we go. 3D theater. Woo-hoo.
And aside from me,
Awesome.
big shout out to Austin Dewey, my co-author. He and I spent a lot of time writing a book is hard.
Writing a book is very hard.
It's like when I went ahead and I taught a class in college for a year, I didn't realize how difficult it was to actually teach a course. Trust me, when I was actually a student, I slept through most of it. So now it was retribution for all the professors I had to deal with, or had to deal with me.
All right. So who's handling
Awesome.
the errata? Because I've submitted at least 3.
Oh, dang. That's fast.
We are looking into it.
Okay, cool.
Did you get my erratas or who got them?
Oh, it goes to some middleman who will then pass it along to me. There's like 18 different people in the process just to make sure that you just didn't submit junk. You might have.
Who knows?
I've been going through line by line, page by page, trying to learn as much as I can about Helm.
Helm is awesome. If you don't know Helm, highly recommend it. OpenShift has actually incorporated a lot of features with Helm. And Chris, I think you've had a couple individuals talk about Helm in the past.
Yes.
I know maybe it might have been Serena talked about some of the console enhancements that might have been in the OpenShift 4.5. I think we're going to have some more in the future. So a lot of Helm stuff.
Yes. Awesome. So, Waleed Shari, one of our constant and biggest fans, his next weekend project is Helm. So that's awesome. Thank you, Waleed. So we're talking about logs today, right? And not just logs, like all the logs.
Yep. All the logs.
They're big, they're heavy, they're wood.
They're big, they're heavy, they're wood. If we printed them, that would all be true.
Yep.
Now, did everyone get that inside reference there? Very good, Scott. I like that.
It's Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy.
So amazing. Awesome. So yeah, the idea is we're OpenShift generates a lot of logs. Kubernetes event logs are massive, just constant flow of data. Getting those to secondary systems, right? Like we understand you might not want to stand up, your own fstack on, your cluster, and you might already have something in place or potentially want to use something different to do log collection and aggregation. So when Andy presented this topic to me, I was like, yes, because this is something that people do all the time. Sending logs to Splunk or, AWS, Kinesis Streams, wherever you want to send your logs, our syslog, whatever you want to do. You can paper trail all those services. They're all out there. You can do it with the LogForwarding API, and these two gentlemen are going to show us all about it today, and I'm super excited.
It's fun stuff. Scott, do you want to share your screen and can kind of walk through what the LogForwarding API is? Provide a quick overview first, and then most importantly, we'll get to some examples and some demos.
Yes. Awesome. Screen sharing works.
Hey.
Third time. Hey.
We'll take it. So why don't you go ahead and go to the first slide, Scott? So mainly today, we've already talked about who we are. We're going to talk about OpenShift logging, talk about the log forwarding API and how it supplements the existing log stack that's provided with OpenShift. We'll talk about some of the enterprise use cases. As we mentioned, Scott and myself are working with customers on a daily basis. Here are some of the tools and technologies that we have seen in the field for integrating with our log forwarding or logging solution. And then finally, most importantly, let's see it actually happen, maybe.
Awesome.
So OpenShift contains an aggregated logging stack comprised of 3 primary components. FluentD, which is going to collect all the container logs and other system logs. Elasticsearch, which is going to collect them or to store them. And then finally, Kibana is a web user interface for displaying and searching the logs that are stored in Elasticsearch. One of the best parts about OpenShift logging is that it provides access control. A lot of times I will have to go in and I get access to everything, which is great because I'm typically an administrator. But if I have many development teams in a multi-tenant environment, I don't want app team A looking at app team B, because guess who comes afterwards? Audit A and auditor B. And I do love our friends in auditing and compliance. It's when there are social visits and not other visits. So users by default are only allowed to see access to logs that they have access to from OpenShift's role-based access control. So OpenShift has had a role-based access control since the beginning of OpenShift 3. And a lot of the work that OpenShift has spearheaded and championed was actually implemented upstream in the Kubernetes community. This happens actually quite a bit with OpenShift. Storage is another area that Red Hat and OpenShift has kind of gone ahead and contributed back to the Kubernetes ecosystem as a whole. And that's kind of what we love to do. So with an understanding of what the log forwarding stack is, how does the log forwarding API fit into all of this? Go to the next slide, Scott. The log forwarding API is a way to take all the logs that are being collected by OpenShift's internal logging and FluentD and forward them to an external system. And there are 3 different types of logs that you can look to forward. Everything from your infrastructure logs is going to be all your system D logs and logs from the hosts themselves. App logs, which are going to be all the container instances that are running on the platform that are not in the OpenShift specific projects. And then the auditing logs. This is all the audit D logs that are being generated by the platform itself. Now, I know Scott spent a lot of time, he and I have actually, ironically, in parallel, we're kind of tackling the log forwarding API separately, and we've kind of worked together over the course of the last few months to talk about how to implement it and to demonstrate them in various systems. Scott, do you have anything to really talk about in your experience?
I was kind of like watching what you were doing as well in the background. I started out with a deployment config, and I probably need to move to a stateful set, but we'll talk about that later.
It's evolutionary. You're going to start small and work your way up from there.
Iterate.
Trust me, you should have saw my first implementation. I was actually embarrassed by how poor and fragile it was. Go to the next slide there, Scott.
Absolutely.
So to enable log forwarding in an OpenShift environment, first and foremost, you need to have just the basic log aggregation stack deployed. I'm not going to kind of walk through that. That the OpenShift documentation easily kind of walks through how to set up log forwarding as a whole. One of the benefits of that is that it's all enabled through a set of operators, 2 primary operators. Operators are great.
Yes.
OpenShift 3 had some not challenges, but it was a lot harder to stand it up. You have to get all your inventory variables for Ansible, run it with Ansible. Ansible is great, trust me. I use Ansible every day for various things, but being able to have to manage it on top of the OpenShift installation, a little difficult. Now, using operators, you're able to have it basically manage itself, and using a GitOps tool like Argo CD. I know you've had a cast of characters, Chris, talking about Argo CD. You had everything from Christian Hernandez, Mario, and Ryan last week talked about how to implement Argo CD and Tecton. So you can put all of this into a pipeline and build out your entire cluster and then have it manage itself. So all you need to do is, first and foremost, have the Elasticsearch, Fluentd, and Kibana stack via the cluster logging custom resource. Go in and enable the tech preview. Quick little asterisk here that currently log forwarding is in tech preview status as of 4.5. It will go GA in a Z stream of 4.5. So any day now, I have my watch counting. Guys,
Do you have any issues with using it in production though? Because I haven't seen any issues with it.
So
at
I've
all.
had no issues. Obviously, it comes down to support, and that's the one area my customers are very concerned about what the level of support is. You don't have full GA, but you still are running OpenShift. You do have some basic level of support. It's just not going to be full support. I try to encourage and educate my customers into what that means, as well as providing all the documentation that they will need to be able to support this if they choose to move forward with a tech preview solution. One of the benefits of tech preview is get a chance to get your hands dirty on some technology that may not be 100% GA, but if your organization feels the need that it fills a void, go ahead and use it.
And I like to say doing this by hand is not fun. Using this operator and this CR, beautiful. Makes this so much easier to deploy.
Oh yeah, I've deployed a similar architecture in OpenShift 3 as well in some earlier versions of OpenShift 4, and well, yeah, it was painful.
Yeah. So some questions from chat already. Do you have to set up the full F stack to do log forwarding? And
You need the stack, but you can disable certain pieces of it.
okay.
So if you don't want to use Elasticsearch from OpenShift, you can turn that off and basically disable or stop it from coming up. Same with Kibana. But you still need the base level infrastructure of the custom resource. Basically, you need the operator to be installed to add the custom resources for cluster logging and log forwarding to your cluster. And then you can go ahead and enable the certain components as you need it.
Sweet. Thank you for that. And then what about just like forwarding from Fluentd to syslog? That's totally like part of this, right? Like you can do that here with ease.
It's one of the outputs that I believe will be available in. Can we go back one slide, Scott? It's Graylog. Sorry, I believe syslog is going to be in the GA version.
Right.
Anyone can remember what the GA version has. I think it has it as an output, but that will be coming in the future. I know because I have a number of customers who use syslog.
Oh yeah, totally. And and then forwarding to like third-party systems like a SIEM type tool, security scanners, all that fun stuff. That has to follow some protocol standard. So normally that is syslog, I think.
So I have a question with syslog. Is that endpoint encrypted, or is it all on plain text?
I think syslog there's a
that I don't know
offhand version of it now. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because that's the thing about the secure forwarder with Fluentd. Everything's encrypted. Everything has TLS certs. Even from with my setup, moving over to AWS Kinesis Streams, that part's also encrypted as well. So nothing in any of my chain is decrypted plain text that you can scan. And
so Waleed is confirming that our syslog in general is just all plain text. So Waleed would know. So he's got enough systems to manage.
So what you can do if you're really interested in being able to leverage fully secured traffic, looking towards obviously the logging solution that we're going to talk about today has that option. Correct. So you are secure between, as you'll see in our architecture, between OpenShift's internal logging Fluentd to a external Fluentd that is still in the cluster, but is a separate instance of it, and then to your endpoint can be encrypted as well. So it's full end-to-end if you really desire.
Yeah, we really don't recommend logs in the open anymore because logs often end up with sensitive data in them. It's inevitable, folks.
So you mean you debug your password outputs? Okay. Yeah, I've seen
Well, I mean, it's happened. I'm not going to say I haven't seen it.
Well, don't audit logs contain tokens?
They can, yeah.
They can. So, yeah, that piece, if you're forwarding out your audit logs, you need to make sure that that whole stream is encrypted.
Yeah, so Sachin's probably ahead of us in the question asking as far as stream or slides go. So let's just continue forward.
All right. Next slide. And then finally, the last thing to do, you need to edit the cluster logging instance and enable the tech preview annotation, that basically turns on or makes the log forwarding API available for use. And then finally, you create the log forwarding custom resource. The log forwarding custom resource allows you to define multiple different pieces. The first one is first to disable the default forwarding mechanism, and then you enable different outputs and pipelines. Outputs are the destinations of where you want the logs to go. This can be everything from the internal Elasticsearch, Fluentd, and Kibana stack is technically an output. You basically turn off the default stream and you enable it as through the log forwarding API as a output, and then you then coordinate it with a pipeline. A pipeline basically says what components do I want to be sent to these different destinations. And these three components that are available are, as I mentioned previously, the app logs, the info logs, and the audit logs. Once you have that set up, it's rinse and repeat, and away you go. Set it and forget it. That's what I was thinking of.
Set it and forget it. Yes. The
Ron Popeil.
Yes. Thank you. I forgot his name the other day.
The showcase rotisserie. I think I spent many days in my childhood watching those infomercials at 2 in the morning.
So yeah, Sachin's asking, where would you disable Elasticsearch and Kibana? In the cluster logging CR? Or,
yes.
Yeah,
that would be in the cluster. You define that there.
Cool.
Next slide. Okay, log forwarding to Splunk. I will share my screen. We'll talk about this. So, show of hands in chat. How many of you have heard of Splunk?
I have.
I have too.
I've sent a lot of data to Splunk.
Yep. So conveniently, I finished writing an article that was posted to the OpenShift blog a few weeks ago that talks about how we implement what we're going to talk about today. It's basically going in and how do we forward to Splunk. And since I didn't include a picture or diagram in the slides, I might as well just point to the blog and walk through that. So as I mentioned, we have running containers on each individual OpenShift node. This is going to be collected by the daemon set for Fluentd. We then configure the log forwarding to forward to two destinations. One is our default Elasticsearch. A lot of times my customers, especially if they're going to go to Splunk, they are going to go ahead and want to be able to still make use of the internal logging in OpenShift. They love that because they don't necessarily want to go ahead and send everything to Splunk. Splunk does have a cost in the amount of data that you send to it, and there may be a need to only send a subset of your OpenShift logs to Splunk. OpenShift at times is very chatty, especially if you're sending all the container logs, all the system logs, all the audit logs. It's a lot of data. So OpenShift's log forwarding actually makes it a little easier because, as we mentioned, you can enable and disable certain pipelines. So I can send, okay, I only want my application logs to go to Splunk and nothing else, and then have everything else go to Elasticsearch. So you go ahead and you specify the pipeline with all the different types, have everything go to Elasticsearch, have only the logs for containers, application containers, go to Splunk. And that's where we tie in this intermediary Fluentd instance. This is going to be our bridge between the log forwarding that's in OpenShift and the external system, whether it be Splunk or, as you'll see later, AWS Kinesis. Both Scott and myself will use a very similar pattern. The only difference is really the output. You can even go ahead and use Fluentd to have a routing logic if you really wanted to, and have, okay, certain pieces go to Splunk, certain things go to Kinesis. You can do whatever you want with that. But right now, we kind of separate it to make the use case a little more simple. So
with that, I'll stop you since there's a quick break. Walid is asking, can you actually filter things going to Splunk?
Yes, and
Perfect.
we'll talk about that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ways, and I'm gonna kind of build upon this. And this is one of the things that's also important is I have a lot of customers, as I mentioned, who are concerned about the amount of data they're sending and where they're sending it. So we're gonna start very simple. We're gonna say, you know what? Let's just send everything to Splunk, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start to maybe make it a little more fine-grained.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get running. I have an OpenShift environment, deployed it this morning. I went ahead and just deployed a very, very simple deployment of the OpenShift logging stack. And what I want to do is nothing really important there, nothing really special. It's just, simple fluent decompile Elasticsearch. I want to go ahead and I want to have a Splunk server. I don't have a Splunk server right now, so fortunately there's a Helm chart to deploy a simple Splunk server that makes use of the HTTP event collector. That is the glue between how to get events into Splunk from an external source. So as this wonderful blog will say, the first thing to do is we need to go ahead and deploy or have a Splunk server available. A lot of enterprises already have one. I don't have one. I have a Splunk server I have a Helm chart that will run it. That will actually also kind of prepare it for deployment with OpenShift. Simple stuff here. You can ignore all the junk that's here. A lot of scripting and cool stuff. Let's just go ahead and run this launch script. Launch. Oh, joy. Let's see.
If you don't have a copy of Learn Helm, please go to packetpub.com.
Wow. Okay. Now I have to plug our own ebooks.
I believe it was Scott mentioned is go to Amazon or some other retailer of your choosing. I could say Barnes and Noble, but it's still around.
Well, if you go to Packet Pub, you also get the electronic version. You get both. You can buy both the paper and the electronic, or just the electronic, or you can go to Amazon. I don't know. Whatever.
So I've run
or on Apple Books. I'm sure it's there too, right? Yeah.
So as part of this blog article, there's a link to a Git repository that talks about how to even set all this up, and I'll make sure to pass these notes.
Waleed's already put it in there, man.
Oh, geez, you already had me.
Trust me, this crowd is on it today.
Perfect. Want to keep them entertained. I promise to do some juggling later on. So there's a wonderful script that will install Splunk for you if you don't have a Splunk server available. Once again, we're just using it for demonstration purposes. It's non-persistent. It's just there to show that it works. And what it's going to do is, assuming that this completes successfully, which it just did, fantastic, no errors. Demo gods are on my side thus far. Let's go ahead and it will spin up a brand new project called Splunk. Let's go look at that. So projects, go over here, look at Splunk, got a brand new project.
Oh, well, he just pointed out Safari Books Online has the book. So if you have that, you have a copy of Andrew's book. So now I have a copy of your book.
Uh-oh.
Boom.
All right. So it also created a brand new route that exposes it. Once again, using self-signed search, demonstration environment only, making life easy. The password is super secret, everyone. Super secret, admin 123.
This cluster will be destroyed immediately following this broadcast.
Basically, yes.
Well, so will mine.
All right. So what it did as part of the automated tooling is it stood up a new index for OpenShift called, what a surprise, OpenShift.
Ta-da.
Yep. We then need a way to get data into Splunk, and that's via the HTTP connect event connector. Let's go to data inputs. Go in here. It also then you have the default one that the Splunk installation setup, and I automatically added that index to it so that any communication will be allowed to talk to that index. Perfect, right?
Nice.
Yep. So now what we need to do is now that we have a Splunk server available, we have a index created. We then have a way to get data into Splunk. Let's go ahead and enable the LogForwarding API custom resource. So if we go down here, we have this wonderful LogForwarding instance. We basically say that we want to go ahead and talk to the one output is going to be the Elasticsearch. This is the one that comes with OpenShift. It is running in the OpenShift logging namespace and is using the service Elasticsearch on port 9200. We then want to go ahead and reference Splunk. I need to go find that from my repository where we get to go learn about Helm a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about time.
I need to pay attention.
Yep,
Yeah, I
so-
need to pay attention.
So this is basically because we have a course a Helm chart that will deploy this whole solution for you, so that if you don't know OpenShift or you don't know the underpinnings
Oh.
of how to deploy this,
Can you increase your font size, please?
I can.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to check that.
Nice and big.
There you go.
Nice. Okay.
So we will basically go ahead and create a log forwarding instance. Use a lot of the default pieces that come with any new Splunk chart. There's a lot of helper functions that when you create a Helm chart, it provides you out of the box, which is great. And then being able to use Jinja 2 templating. Jinja 2 is another wonderful templating language that is not only part of my favorite packaging for Kubernetes Helm, but also part of Ansible.
Yep.
So it's really nice. Like I have developers who've been developing on OpenShift 3 for a while. They've learned and love Ansible. They've done a bunch of Jinja 2. They go, oh, this is very similar. And they can learn how to deploy and develop Helm charts with ease. The next thing we need to do is we need to figure out where to send to Splunk. We look at what the value of where Splunk is. So in our Helm chart, we have a set of default values here. We are using all certified components for this, at least right now, for the logging for FluentD to Splunk. We are able to actually leverage the existing FluentD container image. I found this out as I was doing my research that the default container image for FluentD has a Splunk connector in it.
And you're lucky because mine doesn't
Wow.
have an AWS Kinesis plugin. So I have to build my own image.
So I got lucky, didn't have to do anything. I could,
Nice.
take the afternoon off. I didn't have to develop anything. I can just go ahead and just point to it and just inject a configuration file with how to get to Splunk, and away I went. And that's it.
No, I know better than you, Andy. You didn't take the afternoon off.
I know. Well, you're keeping me honest, aren't you?
Well, I mean, the amount of good stuff you produce is endemic of somebody that doesn't take many breaks.
It's only enough hours in the day, and there aren't enough hours in the day.
I agree with that one wholeheartedly.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this command, helm upgrade -i, basically going ahead and upgrading the Helm chart if it happens to exist, but it doesn't. -i will basically install if it doesn't. We're going to specify that we're going to deploy this to the OpenShift namespace. We're going to call this release OpenShift logging Splunk, and we'll point to the location of where this Helm chart happens to be located inside the charts directory. And then we're going to also set a variable. This is going to be my super secret token for the HTTP event collector. Pardon me.
Did you just copy and paste that from when you just stood up your Splunk, or where did that token come from?
That token actually came from this default values file that I use for my little standalone demo.
Okay.
So that's how you get it. Or talk to your Splunk administrator who can provide the HTTP token that they created for you. Because in most cases, in most organizations, the ones that are deploying OpenShift typically aren't managing Splunk. If they are, you probably should give them a raise because they're doing a lot.
Yeah, no kidding.
So let's go ahead and let's just run this and see what happens. Demo gods, don't fail me now.
Doing it live.
Oh,
Doing it
nice.
live.
I already
You
broke
got
it.
an OC get in there. Got
Oh,
to get rid of that OC get.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It
that'll do it.
happens.
Syntax
Perfect.
is a thing.
So that was fast. Went
Yeah.
ahead and away it went. Let's do OC project. Actually, let's look at the UI. Command lines is fun, like Command Line Heroes does that, but let's just look at the UI. It's a little more pretty. A little more pretty.
Nothing wrong with the UI or the command line. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
So we'll go look at the OpenShift logging project. We'll go to look at the workloads, look at pods. We should hopefully see a log forwarding component. Notice how these are all of a sudden terminating FluentD because we've enabled log forwarding, which means the operator, cluster logging operator, is going to go in and change the configuration of FluentD to now send to the intermediary FluentD instance.
Nice.
Yep. And you'll see this wonderful Fluentd OpenShift log forwarding Splunk set it to pods. Of course, we have 2 of them for high availability because you might want to think that one of them could go down over the course of time.
And you got some stateful sets there. You're using stateful sets.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Does it have? Are you buffering to your file system?
I am. The reason why is because a lot of times there's no guarantee that my Splunk server will be available.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
you do not want to have your logs go to nothing. So we'll buffer it to a file.
So what? I mean, do you have a PVC for that? I
We
mean,
do. So
okay.
a stateful set, if you create a persistent volume claim template, it will automatically create one per instance because there's no guarantee that all the instances are going to share the same data. So you want to create separate PVCs for each instance. Very important.
Nice. Yeah. Very, very, very important.
So as you see, as Scott noticed, big SS for stateful sets. Now let's
how big did you make your PVC for that? For your file buffering?
So I cheated here. So the out of the box, I believe, is just using in memory.
Oh.
For demonstration purposes.
Okay.
If you look at this wonderful values file that we have here for the project, so go ahead and open this up. You'll see commented here is how to set up files. So you just change them up and away you go. But by default, we use memory instead.
Looks like I'll be stealing that from you.
Sharing is caring.
I mean, yeah, sharing is caring, folks.
It is open source.
Yes, that's what we're all about here.
All right, let me just double check that our cluster logging instance has been annotated. I don't believe I did with that wonderful annotation that you do need to add. So let me go back to the blog because the blog knows better than I. It knows better than I. It didn't. It means that we need to go ahead and annotate this, as I mentioned previously. Just go ahead and run that command. See, you got some command line. We didn't put everything in the UI, so I at least did one thing. So we've gone ahead and we've configured the log forwarding instance. We've gone ahead and annotated the cluster logging object. Now the magic. Do we have logs in our 2 outputs? Output 1 being the internal Elasticsearch in Kibana. Number 2, most importantly, Splunk.
So Chris, do you have sound effects like a drum roll?
I wish I had the sound drops board. I don't.
It's okay.
Maybe for Christmas.
Yeah, maybe there'll be something in my stocking or something, you know.
And for those of you listening in and watching, you now know what to get Chris.
And now I'm going to have 16 soundboards. It's going to be great.
With a lump of coal.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, so we are now logging into Kibana. It is our visual editor for the Elasticsearch Fluentd Kibana stack. Do I see logs? Maybe. Hey, look at that, logs. So by default, since I'm a system administrator, I get bucketed into this operations index. I can go and look at the project index and see that we are getting logs from our projects. If we go ahead and just kind of limit it, so we just see our messages. Don't see anything too critical, but we can go ahead and search for them if we desire. Now, moment of truth. Do we have logs here? Maybe, maybe not. Let's go ahead and search. Yes, I know how to search Splunk, thank you. We can just do a simple index equals OpenShift. Do we have logs? Hey, we have OpenShift logs, just like that. Not bad, probably about 35 minutes. We probably haven't been presenting for that long, but we were able to get everything hooked up in just that amount of time.
Nice, good job.
Yeah.
Wow. Slick.
And we can even go in and separate it out. So you can see we are getting logs from all these wonderful namespaces. Splunk makes life really, really cool being able to see all these. Now, you may be wondering, I have an app team that has their own index. Can I go ahead and ship only their logs to their namespace, from their namespace to a separate index that they own? The answer is yes.
Yes.
I mean, you
could
have. So this is a very common consideration. A lot of my larger enterprise customers, they have obviously different business units. They have, their funding is different from other people's funding. A lot of times, OpenShift is provided by a core infrastructure team, and their application is usually maintained by their organization business unit. They want to either separate the charges so it only goes to theirs, or they want to make sure that no one else has access to their index.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it, because right now you're seeing logs from everything. There's not a whole lot of role-based access control around that. One of the benefits of OpenShift is you get that out of the box. One of the things you can do here is look to segregate out the application logs based on index. So let's do something first. Let's create a brand new index. I have a team that loves .NET. I love .NET too. And we're going to create a new index, and we're going to create a new project, and we're going to try this out. This is one of those, I've done it before, haven't done it live in a while, so we're going to see what we can break and watch the demo gods either like me or not like me. So I'm going to create a brand new index called OpenShift _.NET. Okay? Perfect. We have a brand new index. We then need to associate that index to the HEC token that we've created previously. And we'll go in and basically say, okay, that token can write to this index as well. So now we've created a brand new index. We've associated it to the token. OpenShift can now send logs to it. By default, it won't do that out of the box. We need to make some changes. Live coding, opportunities to break things. Yes.
Break it.
Okay, so let's try to break some things here. So we're going to go into our projects, OpenShift logging. And we're going to go in here. And we're going to find a config map. A config map, this is going to be the one that actually is doing all the logic behind the scenes to talk to Splunk. So we should have OpenShift LogForwarding Splunk. We have this wonderful file. This is our Fluentd configuration. This right here is how we get data in from OpenShift's Fluentd into this intermediary. I was good and was able to configure it so it has some security, TLS, and private key encryption.
Is that by default, or did you put that in?
OpenShift log forwarding provides that as an option. You can keep it disabled if you want to, but being the security-minded set that I am, want to make sure that we have that on the box.
Communication is encrypted. Nothing in clear.
This time, at least.
Yes.
Actually, that's true. We actually didn't have everything. Everything, for the most part, was encrypted. It wasn't necessarily all self-signed, but still, it was encrypted. So that's, it's getting somewhere. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and change a few things. Right now, it's sending all the data to Splunk. I want to go ahead and we're going to change it up here. We're going to add a new filter. Yes, I cheated a little bit. We're going to add a new filter in between here.
You came prepared.
I did. I decided that, I didn't test it, but at least I came prepared. The goal is that any namespace that has access, or that has, this annotation, OpenShift.com/Twitch Splunk index, has the ability to have their index send somewhere else. So the idea is that anytime this annotation is on there, it's going to contain the value of the index within Splunk they want logs to be sent. We have to do a few steps first. First step we need to do is we need to create a new project. Let's create a new project. Let's call it .NET. Okay. We'll create it. Now let's go ahead and we're going to add an annotation to that project. So I'm going to go in here and just go down to namespaces. Go here, find the .NET one. We'll see all the different annotations we have out there. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to add that annotation. OpenShift.com/Splunk index. And it was called OpenShift _.NET, right? Keep me honest. in Splunk?
I believe so, yeah.
All right, we'll save that. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's configure, finish configuring Kibana or Fluent or Elasticsearch or Fluentd, pardon me. I'm going all over the place.
Could you filter out like access and like object creation, router setup? Could you get that granular with this, or
We are not getting that data by default. There's a component called the event router that allows
Okay.
you to grab that data and store that into OpenShift logging capability. We're not grabbing that data right now, but
right
you
now?
have the ability to
So
integrate.
yeah,
Event
add the
logger,
operator,
isn't that
and
an
then
extra pod?
Yeah, it's an extra pod as well.
Yeah.
There
is
are
it is an operator, right?
There's a way to get it deployed. I don't have
Right.
the exact.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. Yeah.
It's in the docs. It's in the 4.4 docs. It's in the 4.5 docs.
Okay. I posted the 4.5 docs earlier. I will share those again in chat.
Just checking something here. Service account. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. So we will go ahead and now change that. I'm going to save this to my notes for later. Come back to this. We need to go add that configuration that I had there previously. That I think I might have not actually saved. Minor detail. We'll go here. We'll save it. We'll go here, and we'll add this little chunk again. Didn't save it last time. It's basically going to, this is based, for Fluentd, you have basically a pipeline. It's going to start with your source, go through anything in the middle, and then find matches, and this is going to be your destination of where it goes. When we talked about where to buffer out, either to memory or file, this is where it's being configured. Right now, as you see, we're only saving a small amount of files. I don't expect it to be that much data anyways. So the goal is anything with this index, OpenShift.com, Splunk index will be sent to a separate index. What this does is it is going ahead and is getting metadata from OpenShift using the Kubernetes metadata plugin from Fluentd. Basically going in and talking to the components, talking to the OpenShift API to get certain data from the API and supplementing it onto the container record. So it's getting like the namespace, the name, and a couple other fields by default. That's how, when we saw this before over in Splunk, be able to see what namespace this came from, whether it be the OpenShift, any of the operators or for app teams. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Oh, I can't save it. I need to change one thing, because by default, as you see, this is for the Splunk configuration for the Splunk HEC Fluentd plugin. By default, we are specifying that it's all going to go to this wonderful Splunk index environment variable. We're going to just change this because we're doing this live. It's going to have everything go to the OpenShift index by default. We want to change it so it no longer will use this the OpenShift static Fluentd index, the static Splunk index OpenShift, but we want to actually have it be based upon a piece of the input record. That means that every record that is ingested by OpenShift's logging and is sent through this intermediary Fluentd is going to have a record called index once we turn this on. It's going to either, what we have here as part of this filter, it's going to go ahead and check to see if this annotation exists. If this annotation exists, it's going to use the value of the annotation as this key. Basically, it's going to set a record called index. The OpenShift, or pardon me, the Fluentd HEC plugin has the ability for you to specify this parameter called index key. And it's going to say, okay, on the record that is coming in, that it sees, is there a field called index? And if there is, send to the Splunk index with that value. So it's either going to have the value of the annotation, or at the end, it's going to use the default, which we just declared as OpenShift. Make sense?
Makes sense to me, man.
Okay, let's go with that.
Let's watch it work.
Okay, so we've now changed the configuration. Now, by default, when you change the configuration, it doesn't trigger a new deployment or anything, we'll have to do that manually. But one thing we also need to do is I need to, I believe, add a permission to the service account for that the FluentD forwarder is using, so it's able to get additional metadata off of the projects themselves. By default, the FluentD forwarder, pardon me, actually, one second. The forwarder does not grab all the metadata from the namespace, so I need to give it a little more permission. So I'm just going to give it this, once again, demo environment. You can create custom policies if you need to. OC policy, OC ADM policy, add cluster role to user, cluster reader. So I'm just cheating here. We're going to give it to the service account that we cared about from before. I saved it in my notes. It's right here. Perfect. Once again, I'm hoping this works. If it doesn't, okay.
Live demo, it's fine. We fully embrace failure on this show.
Yeah, okay. We've gone ahead and we've added that. Perfect. Next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to be safe, and we're just going to do the FluentD one as well. Just nope. Just check to make sure what service accounts are out there in this project. It's going to be a log collector. I forgot they changed the name in OpenShift 4. It used to be called FluentD in OpenShift 3. Perfect. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's just delete some pods. I like deleting pods. Let's just go ahead and delete some pods here. We're probably going to lose a little bit of logs, so we're not buffering. It's okay. Test environment. That's why we go ahead and we have buffering later on. Terminate. It will then come up in a second. It takes a few seconds. Normally you would do this in a rolling deployment, so there's no downtime. But once again, demo environment. It's all for TV, right?
Yeah. Cooking show. Set it and forget it. Yeah.
So give it a second for it to spin down, and then we'll be able to get a new environment going. I'm going to wait a couple seconds for at least one of the instances to come up. You can see one coming up. The second one should come up in a second. As soon as that starts coming up, let's go ahead and let's start creating a new project that's going to contain a application called, or actually you already have it, called .NET. We want to go ahead and create a brand new .NET application. So I'm going to switch over and put on my developer hat, get out of the administrator perspective, and look at the developer console. And we're going to go in and go to the catalog, go in and look at all the different templates are out there. There's a wonderful one for .NET Core. We're going to instantiate that template. We're going to go ahead and accept all the defaults, and boom, we'll be able to have a brand new .NET application starting to build.
Love it.
Using source to image. The UI makes it so easy to find all the different logs as you go along.
Yeah, and if you tune in next week, you will, next week, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, you will see some new developer console features being demoed by Serena and company. Yeah, so yeah, the Tuesday streams every other Tuesday is all UX. So yeah, you get to see some of this cool new features like that form you just filled out. Serena's team built that. It's pretty nifty.
I also say by default, the OpenShift console is light years ahead of most other Kubernetes-based UIs. It's just incredible, the amount of data and the amount of functionality you can do with so little clicks.
I work at Red Hat because I think OpenShift is the best Kubernetes distribution on the planet. That's it.
I can hear the chip in my head going, ooh. All right, let's make sure the pod actually started up. Let's go to OpenShift logging. Make sure this, okay, no complaints. We'll go here to the logs. It's not complaining. I like when there's nothing here in the logs. I have log debug off, very production-like, only gonna alert me when things are not going well. All right, I like that. We have an image built. That's a good thing. Go back to the topology view. We have a instance that's coming up. Come on. You can start. You can do it. It's running on a wonderful cloud provider. I will keep that cloud provider nameless.
I think we all know.
Yeah, probably. Okay, open the URL up. Oh, see, not coming up. What's going on? There we
So
go.
go ahead. Yeah, there it is.
That's it. It's very simple, very, very simple .NET application.
Well, I mean, it's just a demo.
Okay, moment of truth. Moment of truth time. Can we find that log in Splunk? Because if we go look at the OpenShift side of things, let's go ahead and we can do the logs from a container. I see some log stuff here. Looks like typical starting up scripts. Beautiful. Can I see this moment of truth time? Go into Splunk. Go to search and reporting. Go to index equals OpenShift _.NET. Survey says.
Drum roll.
It doesn't look like it. Oh well. It was worth a try. Let's see.
Did it work
OpenShift.
earlier?
Nah, it should have, but it looks like it didn't. Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. Oh, that was Kibana. Let's make sure it made it to Kibana first.
Yeah, like let's check the flow here.
Yep, Kubernetes .namespace :.net. Namespace name, I think it is. Yep, so we got logs inside Kibana. That's a good start. We'll just double check when it comes to Fluentd. Nothing there, which is good and bad. It could mean a number of things. We'll do some checking here. Make sure there's no logs here. Nope, no complaints. Go back here. No complaints there, so that's good. We'll now check the default logging to see if it just didn't get caught. So we'll just do that search. Kubernetes, namespace, name equals .NET. See if it got caught here. Oh, so it got caught in the default OpenShift. It didn't get sent to a separate index.
Well,
so that's a good thing and a bad thing. It means that hey, we got our logs there. It just means further customization needs to occur on the Splunk side, on the OpenShift side. I'm going to spend 5 more minutes working on that. I want to give Scott his hour to make sure we don't go over. So we're going to spend 5 minutes diagnosing it. If we can get it to work, great. Otherwise, we'll just have to be to be continued. I'm going to cheat here. We're going to do some cheating. I'm going to go ahead and just do OC delete. No, I shouldn't have to delete all my Fluentd instances because those didn't change. Let's double check a few things. Let's check the index name or the annotation on the namespace is our next diagnosis. A little bit of investigative analysis here. So if things aren't working the way you look in Kubernetes and OpenShift, how do we fix them? So let's go look at our namespace, make sure it's annotated properly. .NET. Go here, look at my YAML. OpenShift.com, some Splunk index, OpenShift index. It found it, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cheat and check my other.
What is it? What is it?
Found the issue that is probably the problem.
Okay.
It's okay. It just means that I didn't go ahead and I didn't add another piece of the configuration, which is okay. We can work on that together. It makes sense why this didn't work. We need to actually tell it to enable the OpenShift metadata, Kubernetes metadata plugin to grab that information. So let me go ahead and let me just add that OpenShift logging. And we'll go in and go to config maps. We'll go to Splunk. Here we go. And we'll go before here and we'll add this. So we're going to add a brand new filter. Live coding, right?
Yeah.
Type.
You're live coding maxes out back and then place that. Yeah, it's all
Oh,
good.
beautiful. Metadata, and we'll do annotation, match. And as I cheat here and look at my other thing, it's going to be.
You left this out on purpose, just to do this.
I might have.
Yeah, maybe. So what happens? So what happens to Kibana when we forward all the logs to an external system? Will it still work with FluentD in place?
Yep.
Okay.
We already looked at that. Remember, we saw the log.
Yeah.
So everything by default, as long as we also forward to Elasticsearch inside OpenShift, will continue to run just like it always has. Station match. And I'm not going to go ahead and explain all the different configuration options here. The Kubernetes metadata plugin has that on GitHub. That should work. OpenShift.com. It should be. Yep. So perfect. We'll add that. I need to add this backspace so it knows how to escape that properly. And let's go ahead and save it.
So what is DE_dot? What? I'm just curious.
Well, let me set the pod first, just because it takes a couple seconds to set the pod, and we'll go look at the documentation.
Oh.
I love looking at the actual documentation itself.
Yeah.
So we'll stop that. We'll go to Kubernetes metadata CATA plugin. Let's do Google. Here it is. Our wonderful Fabricate team back in the day worked on this. DE dot. It replaces dots in labels and annotations with the configured .de separator required for Elasticsearch 2 compatibility.
What happens in the next version of OpenShift 4.5? I thought it has a newer version of Elastic in it.
I have not tested. This is 4.4. I'm actually running in right now because I know it's worked in the past. So we'll give that a try. Uh-oh. That's not good. I see a crash back. See what happens when I didn't run this right? Live coding breaks out. Oh, live coding is dangerous.
I appreciate this because it teaches people what to look at to troubleshoot.
Yep. Yeah, you don't learn anything if it always works.
Yeah. That's a true statement.
Everything worked every time. Life would be too good.
Life would be too good. Let's figure out why that's not working.
Do you have enough quotes, or do you have?
That would be it right there. Yep, okay. You're dead on right. Missed a quote. This is why I use version control typically. GitOps is great. I know folks are yelling at me right now. Why did you do this?
You almost made me pull out my old man glasses to see the small text.
All right. So here we go. Let's go ahead and let's kick those pods again. We'll come back up. And I know I promised to finish up at 2:30 Central Time.
You got 30 seconds.
How you doing? Fine.
I'm going to probably go over a little bit. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll let it slide. I don't think I have a complete hour, so we'll fill it in with Q&A. And
it's not like I don't have any. I mean, yes, I have stuff to do, but I don't have a meeting after this meeting or this event.
All right. It's coming down. Any questions out there in the chat, Chris? Well, we got a moment.
So there's a whole discussion about taints and tolerations going with Christian. What is this? Maybe suggest a better way to objectify the payloads that go into the logs. Can you cover what is the best way to standardize the objects that go into logs? I'm not sure what that's from Sridhar Shastri on YouTube. Some clarification there would be good, maybe.
So one of the things you can do if you want to get really fancy when it comes to Fluent deconfiguration is you can, remove certain pieces of data, add new pieces of data that's actually sent out to Splunk. Right now, we're just kind of sending everything. So if you only want certain fields to be sent, you can go ahead and only send certain fields. OpenShift by default will collect everything, but at an application level, that gets a little more meta of what is your application doing? What data do you need to actually log as part of your application? That's kind of a higher level discussion.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Pods are up. I should just double check to make sure that they're not complaining, which is good. I'm gonna just double check this. It may complain because I have multiple filters. It doesn't because those are just warnings. Good. Let's go switch over to the developer. We'll just switch back over to my .NET project. We're gonna create some more logs. Best way to create more logs, delete the pod.
Hey, there you go.
All right. This will be one last try. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, at least I learned something, I hope.
That means you have to come back, though.
That's true. We could have a part 2. Oh, wait, part 2 is going to be with Scott, who's talking about AWS and Kinesis. All right.
So we have part 3.
Oh, there you go.
I like this. Now it's a mini series.
Okay. We have logs. Let's go ahead and we'll start the trace first. Let's look and confirm that it runs and is available in Kibana. We'll run it. There's 1421 was our last log. Now it's 1431, dead on 10 minutes. Perfect. We will go here and try to see if we can see anything in our OpenShift_.net. Oh my goodness, it worked. Look at that.
Yay.
Yay. Good job, man. Nice.
So 731, which is UTC. Most importantly, do we see any logs from that in our default index? Remember,
Right. It was in the default. We didn't want it there.
Right. So 1731 is our most recent logs. Let's search the default, and we shouldn't see any logs from. And let's search for just the .NET, like we did before.
Yeah. There's going to be logs there, no doubt about it.
There will be logs from 21, but no 31. See?
There you go.
Perfect.
Nice. Good job, man.
So we've gone ahead and we've demonstrated how to use OpenShift's OpenShift LogForwarding API to send to an external source in Splunk, but also add some filtering logic so we can add even additional functionality. And this is only the beginning. There's more.
Like this is tech preview stuff, right? Like it's the very beginning. Yeah.
I think a better way to talk about a phase 2 approach is for us to come back again when the GA product comes out. We can talk about how to take your existing infrastructure and make it so it works on the fully GA 4.5 Stream release.
Yes, 100%.
All right, I'm going to pass over to Scott, who's going to talk about AWS Kinesis.
Let's hope so. Let's hope I can get my screen to share. Give me 2 seconds here. Share screen. Share. All right.
There we go. Cool.
All right. Scott Worthington, Senior Consultant, Red Hat. Little plug about me. That's me right in the middle. Well, not in the middle, all the way on the left. Starting out way back, September 10th, 1980, on a TRS-80 Model 1. I was the operator. Brian Gavelic, Bruce Boyd were they're playing Hangman. Probably not an appropriate game to play today, but we were learning how to spell. Anyhow, let's move over to forwarding to AWS Kinesis Streams. We're going to use the LogForwarding API. So what is AWS Kinesis Streams? What it does, it allows you to forward your logs or data, any type of data, to basically a holding bin. And you can configure this holding bin to hold the data from anywhere from 24 hours is the minimum. You can't set it any lower, all the way up to 168 hours, which is 7 days. This data is also replicated across 3 AZs, and it allows you to then push it somewhere else. I'm not going to show in my demonstration where the data is going to go next. So most customers will, you push it to AWS Streams, then it goes into a fire hose. After the fire hose, you can send it anywhere. You can send it to AWS Elasticsearch for logging, so you can do analysis with Kibana. You could send it anywhere else within AWS's environment. So I'm not going to show the fire hose piece or anything after that. We're not even going to see if the logs actually are valid, contain data, but within AWS Kinesis Streams, we will be able to see the numbers of the logs going in. Why am I not doing the AWS Elasticsearch piece? Because I'm cheap, actually. Because for me to set up the Kinesis Streams, it doesn't cost me much in AWS. If I did a full Elasticsearch cluster in AWS, it's going to cost me some real money. So we're going to configure LogForwarding API to just like Andy's configuration. We're going to send logs to another FluentD. That FluentD, unfortunately, the FluentD that comes with OpenShift does not have the AWS Kinesis Streams plugin in it, which means I have to make my own image. So we're going to build an image. I don't think I'm going to do that demo. I guess I could. I could use Podman and then push it up to Quay. I could be, I don't know, tempting fate if I do that. But I already have an image up in Quay that has the AWS FluentD, I'm sorry, the AWS Kinesis Streams plugin already made. That's a gem. It's a Fluent gem.
Nice.
And then we're going to reconfigure the logs to forward to AWS Kinesis Streams. I am going to flip over to my GitHub.
You share that link with me somehow.
My GitHub?
Yes, trust me, people will ask for it.
I guess I could try to email it to you right now.
Just drop it in the little chat doohickey here if you want.
The chat doohickey. Let me find where.
Well, if you're sharing your screen, you might not see it.
Technology is hard. It really is.
I don't know. Yeah, if I'm sharing my screen, where would I put the
Never
chat
mind. Just
piece?
go forward with it. I'll find it from what I can read.
GitHub.com/worsko/OCP4-FluentD-Kinesis-Streams. So I'm going to go to this first link here. Back in the day of OpenShift 3.11, we had this design. And I'm going to go scroll down to the image. And this is the design where we would stand up a FluentD completely external to OpenShift. But what we're doing today is we're no longer standing up FluentD completely outside the cluster. So I don't have to spin up another EC2 image. I don't have to spin up a VM. This is all within OpenShift. It's way cool because it's scalable. All right, so I'm going to scroll through my notes here. Here is my design. And if I make it a little bit smaller, it'll all fit. So we have our OpenShift cluster. We have all the nodes in the cluster. Each node has a daemon set running FluentD. What I'm going to be spinning up is I'm going to spin up 3 pairs of FluentD forwarders. Each of these pairs will be forwarding to audit logs. It'll be forwarding to an AWS Kinesis stream for audit logs, for the operation logs, and also for the app logs. So this guy right here, which is, so here's our original FluentD. It forwards to the Elastic, which is within OpenShift, comes with OpenShift. We're also going to reconfigure it. So the secure forwards to the FluentD forwarder, which then will be configured, each pair, to then go to the AWS Kinesis Streams endpoint. And again, this is scalable. I'm going to start with 2. If for some reason you're seeing a huge amount of traffic that your 2 FluentDs can't handle, then scale it up to 3 or 4. You can do that. It's a pod. There are many prerequisites. So because I'm going to stream this to AWS, I need an account. I need an IAM user. I need to set up my AWS Kinesis Streams. I also have to have a container image repository for my custom container. And I also need a cluster. So I already have the cluster built. Now we need to pivot over to AWS. And I'm going to go to IAM. And I have a user. And this user is called OCP Kinesis user. I will try to make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. So this user has a policy that's been applied to it. This policy is allowing this user account to forward over or have access to these Kinesis streams. Now, I couldn't create these Kinesis streams. I guess I could have created this policy before I created my stream, but typically I create the streams, then I know what the names are, then I go back into this IAM user, then I can put in what's the name of the stream. So if anybody got my keys, they couldn't actually push into this. And if you do get my keys, this cluster is going to get destroyed afterwards.
Get them fast.
The clock is ticking, exactly.
The stream ends, it's over.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've got our IAM user, we got a policy attached to it. I'll show you my 3 Kinesis streams. Here's my 3 streams. Typically, there would be a data hose afterwards. The stream would connect to the data hose, the fire hose. The fire hose would then shoot it off into Elastic or somewhere else.
Wherever, yeah.
Wherever in AWS. There's so many options. Here are my 3 endpoints. I'm going to look at audit. Audit is very chatty. It is probably up there, chattiness up there with operations. I'm going to click on monitoring, and hopefully this will show no recent data. And if there's no recent data, that means I turned off, I disabled my demonstration before we started. So I'm going to scroll down. You'll see little segments in here. This is when it was working, when I turned it off, when I turned it back on and turned it back off. So we're clear right now. It's not set up. It's not configured.
But boy, have you tested this.
Well, I had to. This,
of course.
I have a customer who's using this, so
right.
I have to make my customer happy. All right, so we got our 3 streams. We've got our IAM user. One thing that I didn't show you is I have an AWS key. That AWS key is used as a secret within OpenShift. It allows the Fluentd pod to communicate with AWS.
Nice.
Let's pivot now to the image. And I have a Docker file. And in my Docker file, I was unlucky. I was not able to get Splunk already built into it, or I didn't have the pleasure of having the Fluent plugin Kinesis already built in. So I had to build my own image.
It means you didn't prime the engineering team enough to include.
Well, this plugin might change too. So I had to pick a point in time. I had to pick a point in time to choose which Fluentd that I wanted to use. So this is something that has to be repaved every so often. Anytime that the customer does an upgrade of their OpenShift logging, the operator does an upgrade, they'll probably have to update this as well, repave it. So I've got my image. This is my base image from Red Hat. I am going to install all the components that I need to be able to install this Ruby gem, all the way down to I need GCC. So we're going to install the packages. This just makes some output of all the packages that were installed, make sure that they're there. We enabled the software collection library for Ruby 2.5, because that's what it needs for this Ruby gem. And we finally install this Fluent plugin for Kinesis. After that, in this same layer, we remove all the development components for compiling this in, because we don't need it. And we're all doing this in one layer. We clean up our metadata from the build, and we finally have our image. So we have our Fluentd. Yay!
I like images. We
have our own image. Unfortunately, I don't know Helm yet, so I'm going to use basic deployments and bash scripts.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
It just means Scott gets to spend some time each night going ahead and learning about Helm from the book.
I'm going to learn it from this book right here. What's that you're showing, Chris?
Chris has got it already? Oh, that's from there.
Yeah, but which one can you get signed?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That just means I have to carry this around, and just by luck,
so that's
run
different.
into you at the tower.
No, hang on.
The chances are,
it just means that it means he has to send the e-copy. I'll sign his e-copy and then send it back to him.
So chances are Andy's going to fly through DTW at some point, and I could probably just meet him there.
Yeah,
that's true. Though I'm Star Alliance. So.
All right, back to the train of thought.
Yes, your deployments and your shell scripts that we love. And
there we go. So we got a cluster. We have our endpoints. We have our image. And so I created my Kinesis Streams. So there's this thing called shards with Kinesis Streams, and it basically says how many endpoints am I going to allow, or how much bandwidth am I going to allow AWS to be able to ingest my data? If I only had one shard, I don't think audit and operations would flow in. It actually would start backing up. So I did 2. You might need 3, you might need 4. It depends upon how busy your cluster is. Speaking of that and clusters, let's go back to AWS for just 2 seconds and go to billing, just to show how much this costs. So the only cost I have in AWS right now is my Kinesis stream. And for this month, it's been up all month. It's cost me $30. If I had stood up that Elastic cluster, I think I would have seen at least $200, $300. So I wanted to keep this as low as possible.
AWS bills being what they are, that's pretty good.
Yeah. All right, so create our streams, create your user, attach a policy, build your image with Builda. Works fine with me. I'm on rel 7.8. Podman Builda all works as a rootless, under rootless, so I'm happy with that.
Nice.
We tag and push. Do I need a demo of that? I don't know.
No, I mean we've seen enough container images get built on this channel.
All right, and now finally the install. So we need to set some things. We need to set our AWS key, our secret, and the logging names that we're going to create. So I still need to refine this a little bit. It's a little bit of work in progress. I'm just naming 3 logging names: projects, operations, and audits. And then you need to match up. You need to match up what your stream name is with each one. And then finally, you have to say your region. When I do this in this demo, I already have these things saved. I have my keys and secret as an environment variable already, so I'm not going to reveal it in a cut and paste.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. All right, now it's time to.
Some people don't think about that.
Yeah. Oh,
it has happened.
Yes, indeed. Instantly have to kill my cluster. All right, so we got our cluster. And we should be, we're already there. Let's see, pods. Let's see what kind of pods. I'm going to clear the screen and put it at the top.
Appreciate that.
All right, so we've got a working OpenShift logging is installed. Great. Let's do the install. This is kind of boring, kind of almost as boring as a Helm chart launching. Here we go. We're going to set projects, operations, and audits. We're going to forward it over to the corresponding stream name. It's going to go into US East 1. Here we go.
Oh, you trust the US East 1. Brave.
And there we go. And we have our 3 pairs. We have our pair for audit, pair for operations, and our pair for projects. Here's the boring thing about Kinesis Streams. It takes 5 minutes for that data to post. So
really?
in this wonderful graph, it takes 5 minutes to post. So because I don't have this going anywhere else, I can't validate that the data is going further. So the best that I can do is I can go to monitoring.
Okay.
My customer has this all set up where it's going to their Elastic. They can immediately see the results. I'm going to make sure that this is set to just 1 hour. Right. And I'm also going to drop down the refresh. If I don't do either one of these, I won't get to see the
nice do the 10-second auto refresh.
Yep. So this hasn't been active for the past hour because we've been doing the Splunk demo. Maybe I'm going to show maybe 3 hours. What the heck? I'll show 3 hours just to make me feel comfortable that there's some data. Awesome. What we're going to see is we're going to see a write throughput exceeded. What's going to happen is FluentD is going to, since FluentD got bounced on all the daemon sets on all the nodes, it's going to scroll back and look at logs, and then it's going to slam it down to my FluentD forwarder. My FluentD forwarder is going to fill up and then slam it down the throat of Kinesis. Kinesis is going to say, whoa, hold off, back off, dude, a little bit too much too soon. And so we're going to see a write throughput exceeded. But that's okay. It's going to be cached and the data will finally get through. So let's go take a look at what this looks like in the logs when it's getting pushed back.
There you go.
Let's go take a look at this guy. Notice right here, retrying to request batch. What's happening is we're getting the back pressure from Kinesis.
Okay.
These messages are going to go away when there's no more back pressure.
Right. Once Kinesis catches up and
And
has
this
all
is
these
why
events.
we need to have buffering on the
Right.
side. So when this occurs, this is why we need to persist those.
So there was a question, right? Like you're doing it in memory. Like, how dangerous is that? Like compared to using a PVC in proper storage?
Well, what happens if you are buffering and your pod dies? It's the cloud.
Anything's possible. So yeah, your mileage may vary on that one. So be careful with that.
Right now, my configuration, I'm only using memory. So I might have to, I'm going to borrow some pieces, some beautiful pieces from Andy's setup. I'm going to put in that option so that you can also send it to a file. I'll also change this from deployment to a stateful set so that the data does stay with that pod.
Nice. See? Wonderful.
Let's pivot back over to Streams.
The question is, did Andy open issues for those for you?
Not yet. I can't. I'm very good at opening issues, solving them sometimes.
Go right ahead. That's a good motivator. Open some issues up on mine. Said, hey.
Okay. So Scott, what you need to do here is say contributions welcome. There's a wonderful channel full of people here. I know someone is interested in learning about this.
Yes.
Put your knowledge to the test. Go ahead and add that feature in for Scott.
That would be awesome. That's what open source is all about. I love it.
Exactly.
I love
there
it.
You go. There's a call to action. I just put the GitHub back in chat in case you missed it.
That guy right there on the left is very appreciative.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Contributors.
What? I'm not last being picked on the kickball field.
Nice. All right. So data.
Has it been? Is it showing up yet? I'm gonna do the mean thing. I'm gonna hit Control R. I don't know if it's been 5 minutes yet.
I thought you were gonna say Control Alt Delete. Okay.
All I want to see is one little dot.
Yeah, we're literally looking for a speck.
We're looking for a little dot. Still hasn't shown up yet. It's not there yet. I promise this works.
Is the 5-minute thing in like AWS service limitation that they put in, or is it just
something to do? It's something to do with their
internal routing
system. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
So they're going to log the event. So make sure to hit Kinesis. They're doing something there to make sure it actually goes to the right place too. So yeah.
Yep. I'm just flipping over to the operations. Oh, we got dots.
Ooh, dots.
We got a single dot. That's happy for me.
There we go. Data's going into Kinesis.
Data is flowing in.
Are on our side today.
So
and
what I
Kinesis
typically
holds on to it for how long?
Well, once they'll hold on to it it's configurable. So the lowest amount that Kinesis will hold on to is for 24 hours.
Okay.
The most is 7 days, 168 hours.
Got it. So yeah, you have up to a week to do something with that data. Once it
correct. If something upstream, if your fire hose goes down, if your Elastic goes down, you can still replay this. You can pull it back out and get your logs back.
That's an awesome, super handy.
Basically a messaging system, messaging service.
Yeah, but designed for logs, not SQS.
Correct. I'm just checking the audit logs.
Yeah.
See if I get
Anything
a
here?
dot.
Here we go. Come on. A line, a dash, a dot. Anything?
Oh.
Bueller.
No, nothing here yet, which is strange. Of course, because we're all watching.
Because
operations
it's
got it so far.
live.
Yeah,
Duh.
it's live. Duh. If we let it bake, if we let the kettle, if we let the pot of water boil.
Yeah, we're not watching
Yeah,
it.
if you don't watch it, well, you know, it'll boil. Yeah.
If we don't watch it, there'll be data there. This has worked every time. Every time
If
I
data
uninstall,
falls in the forest, does anybody know about it? Good question.
that is my side of the demo. So
it's very,
can
very
now-
insightful.
you can now shoot this anywhere within AWS. It's very
Right.
handy.
Yeah, like getting these logs, like these are when at, you know, in aggregate, there's a lot of storage taken up. So getting them where you want it, getting them, you know, filtered out how you needed it, vitally important. And, you know, to Waleed's point, right? Like adding more granular filtering coming out of OpenShift will help out our customers more. So I'm hoping that that is considered in the future as well. But, you know, you can also filter elsewhere as well, right? Like you could add a filtering step someplace if need be. That's entirely possible, right? I mean, you could totally have like 2 Fluent stacks maybe running to do some filtering if you wanted.
So one of the things that I didn't mention is that for Splunk, there is a product called Splunk Connect that's produced by Splunk itself, which is basically a solution for sending logs from a Kubernetes environment, including OpenShift, to Splunk. A number of my customers have used that because they want to completely replicate or replace, pardon me, the OpenShift login. They don't want OpenShift login. They just want to get data out of OpenShift to Splunk. One thing that I emphasize when I talk to them is, what do you want from your logging solution? Do you want to replace OpenShift logging with Splunk, or do you want to supplement it? And what I recommend, if you are supplementing, to not use Splunk Connect, because you are then having 2 Fluent-Ds running concurrently, reading the same data, and they fight with each other.
Right. So my idea is a bad idea.
It's a less optimal idea.
It's a less optimal idea.
So this is the audit log. The data is flowing in now.
Sweet.
Awesome.
So we have all 3. We've got audit, we've got operations, and we also have projects. So in the documentation, it recommends that audit logs are not forwarded into the Elastic that's in the OpenShift cluster. That audit logs can contain tokens, service account tokens. So if I were to throw this over to Kinesis into AWS, I want to make sure that that's encrypted the whole path, even at rest. Wherever this audit log is going at the end, I want to make sure that you can only get to it via 2-factor. I only want auditors to get to it. I don't want operations to get to it. They can look at operations logs. If operations need to look at audit logs, maybe there should be a subset of those operations people who have that capability, but you really don't want everybody playing around with audit logs.
No, that's kind of a dangerous thing. So Waleed asks, the Red Hat FluentD plugin is not Splunk Connect. What is it then?
No, so Splunk Connect is an entire offering. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah, like I just looked it up. It's a whole different thing from
It's a whole
Splunk
different
itself.
suite. So give me a second.
But what Waleed is asking is, what is the FluentD plugin for, like our Red Hat FluentD plugin? What is
the FluentD plugin is just the connector to talk to the Splunk. That's it.
Splunk. So it's
just the output plugin.
Their
It's just the
open
driver.
source,
It's the
right?
driver,
Their driver.
basically.
Yeah.
Talk from FluentD to Splunk.
Right.
Yeah. Versus Splunk Connect is an entire ecosystem similar to what the aggregated stack from OpenShift includes. It basically has its own FluentD.
Yeah, the
everything.
The name Splunk Connect is not misleading. It's just not complete, right? Like it's more than just connecting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's connecting and integrating. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions from chat? I am not seeing any. Anything else from y'all other than buy Andrew's book?
And I will make sure to send you some of the some of the profits there, Chris. Thanks for plugging it again.
No, I don't need any of the profits. Give me a break. If you give me a signed copy of the book, though,
I can do
that I would be
Hey,
elated.
if anyone wants a signed copy, let me know.
Oh God, you might have opened yourself up to something.
I'll take it. Bring it on.
Okay.
What's your next big goal there, Chris, for followers?
Well, I mean, we hit 1,000 followers. We're up to 1,300 followers. I'm thinking of the next goal, right? There's so much on the plate as far as like back end stuff that we want to do, right? Like I still need to pick out music. I still need to do a bunch of other little things, but getting to a point where this channel is kind of in a, self-sustaining, there's shows planned every day, right? Recurring shows planned every day, and people are on here, and, maybe I'm not producing every show, those kinds of things need to get checked now as the back end work that's happening. But if we could get to 2,000 by the end of September 15th, I'd be really happy. I mean, that's 45 days, 700 people. That shouldn't be that hard.
For me, I'll go ahead, and if we hit that goal, we need to go ahead and talk about some way that we can show our appreciation.
Interesting. Yes. So that is a thing that's going on in the background, is how do we show super fans like Waleed, who is in KSA, how do we show them appreciation? And, that is a lot harder in the COVID times for some reason, because people that would send stuff aren't in the places they would send stuff from. So it's getting interesting to like figure out like how do we thank our viewers, how do we thank our guests. So yeah, it might turn into something like a coupon code or something like that for the Cool Stuff store. We don't know yet.
There are options.
There are options. We're trying to get the right one figured out, long term kind of deal, right? Like we want to make it sustainable long term. That's the biggest thing.
And there's probably still at least 500 unsubsquirrel stickers at the Cool Stuff store.
No, last I checked, it was under like 300, right?
Really?
Like, yeah, I bought some the other, like a couple weeks ago. It was under 300.
Nice. Unsubsquirrel.
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, Waleed says he's already appreciative of getting his questions answered, but that is clearly not enough, Waleed.
No.
Trust me, like he is here almost every day, if not every day, like and actually helping folks.
I've caught a number of the recordings, and yes, he's here a lot.
Like I still have the June 15th recording in the back of my head. It's when a ton of questions were asked in chat, but before I could answer any of them, and while Waleed was part of this, like they were answered, right? Like the community answered themselves. Awesome. And like that is, for any community organizer doing any kind of event, that is the ultimate goal, is when the community is answering their own questions, right? Like,
that's awesome.
Are you tracking Twitch and YouTube because you're live in both? Yes, we track everything. Yeah, I mean, all the analytics come to me. Yeah, so I've got numbers. I can't
wait to hear your theme music, Chris. So it should be like something that's like that you made that doesn't have a license. That maybe you can have your friends and family help contribute, like to a humming song where everyone's like, and it's like that becomes your theme, some sort of crazy hummy thing.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm gonna buy some licensed music that doesn't get flagged by YouTube.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's like $200 for a song. It's not bad. I just have to pick out a song. And, I probably should open that up to the audience for a choice. So how do you run a poll for a few days for Twitch? It's one of those things. It's like, it doesn't really exist. So yeah, there's all these problems.
As they say, Chris has already gotten a angry email demanding money at early hours of the day. Don't want one from the DMCA or some of the copyright police.
So
I don't need that. Yeah.
No.
You're gonna let the whole world vote on the music. So it could be like.
Well, I would limit it. I would get it down to like a list of like 4, and then just say A, B, C, D. Pick one, right?
Makes sense.
What would you rather hear? Maybe. I might bounce. It might just bounce it off my team. I might just make the decision myself. Depends what mood I'm in that day when I'm evaluating music. It might just be so awesome that I just buy it right on the spot. Who knows? But yeah. That's it.
Nice.
I appreciate your time today, y'all.
No, thanks, Chris.
No,
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I thought there is free licensed music.
Is it good though?
Is it is it good? B, is it not going to get flagged by YouTube? Right, like that's the biggest thing, right? Like it's almost to the point now where you're the auto like flagging of YouTube stuff. Like you have to. There's actually a company that is now licensing music as like a monthly subscription model, and they guarantee that YouTube will not flag it because they're giving it to YouTube and saying we own this and we
That's kind of cool.
we wholly like allow it on YouTube kind of deal. Like they've alerted YouTube to the presence of the music and trained the algorithms not to flag it kind of thing, which is pretty wild when you think about it, that a service like that needs to exist. But yeah, so it's not as simple as you think running a live stream. Like this is probably like the bare bones version, and it's already a lot of stuff. So yeah, but again, I appreciate your time, Scott, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Please
so much.
feel free to make another suggestion for a show anytime. Andrew, you'll have to come back at some point, show us more things.
I got one in the queue with you.
You do? Okay, I haven't looked at it today. I'm sorry.
No, it's from a while back. It's about
is it?
security.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. No, we have to have the discussion about that still.
What is it about? What is it about? Or you can't tell yet?
No, you can tell.
Yeah, it's about fine-grained IAM rules with OpenShift and AWS.
Yeah, like that could be a whole like series. I feel
That's
like for each cloud, right? Like, I mean, we could get kind of.
You got to start with one though. First,
you got to start with one. I get that, but if you're interested, and maybe like bi-weekly, monthly, cloud IAM shows, right? Like
security is very important.
Yeah, I mean, IAM is one of those beasts that I don't enjoy dealing with. So
I love
it. If you love it, I would love to have you on talking about it, because
followed up by the segment Ask Andy Block.
There you go. Right. Like Ask Andy Block is like a great show name.
You never know.
I'm gonna get you eventually. Anyways. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone out there. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and join us tomorrow for 9 a.m. Eastern time. Brand new, the Level Up Hour. What this show is going to do is teach folks that have that RHCSA, that RHCE, how they can take those skills and apply them and then level them up into the OpenShift and container realms of cloud native ecosystem world. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting show. First thing with Langdon White. And then at noon tomorrow, we have Build It with OpenShift on IBM Cloud. It's a panel discussion with a few IBM Cloud folks. And then that's the only two. Oh, there's only two tomorrow. Okay, cool.
Ooh, light day.
Yeah, light day. No, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are our most popular days. I think Tuesday is our most popular day, followed by Monday, then Wednesday. So yeah. It's pretty cool. So yeah, thanks everyone. Tune in tomorrow. Go to red.hat/streamcal if you want to subscribe. Just click the bottom right. There should be a Google Calendar logo, and there'll be a little plus sign next to it. If you click that, you will subscribe to the Red Hat live streaming calendar, and all these events will be in your calendar for you automatically. You can also go and pick particular events, and if you right-click on them, you can add them to your calendar individually. So yeah, thank you very much, and we will see y'all tomorrow.